When I was about 18, after a brief period at Columbia University, I discovered that I wasn't really feeling at home in that Ivy League setting. I felt drawn to other things. I felt like the whole atmosphere in the community that I'd grown up was it was dissolving into bitterness and disappointment and frustration. Having been involved with the civil rights movement through my parents and the anti-war movement, I felt like that whole community had started to break into lots of different pieces, and I really sorely felt a deep sorrow at that, and I think that's what really convinced me finally to head out to Europe, because I was too saddened by what was going on. Friends that used to be together and united, you know, musically and otherwise, seemed to be going different ways, and there was a lot of disappointment. So I headed out to Paris and had a wonderful experience meeting the great Mickey Baker, jazz icon, rhythm and blues hero, who I'd remember listening to on the radio with Mickey and Sylvia. All of a sudden, a friend of mine in Paris introduced me to Mickey, who was living there, and he kind of took me under his wing for a while. And I remember he put me in a room with a cassette of Robert Johnson, King of the Delta Blues, and he said, "Just listen to this and come out and we'll talk about it." And I came out and I said, "Mickey, tell me that's 2 guitar players." And he said, "No, man, that's 1 guy. Go back and listen again." And so we talked about that. That might have been when I first got really interested in actually playing and performing country blues material. Mickey was working on something at the time with older music, and this is a very sophisticated jazz musician who was really delving into obscure country blues and loving it and passing on his love of it. So I traveled from Paris to Stockholm, Sweden, and again, I think my journey has been planned on some other plane by somebody who was very aware of my passion for a certain kind of music, because I ran into a guy named Bjorn Hamrin, a harmonica player who owned a record shop, Early Bird Records, and Bjorn had one of the most serious collections of pre-war blues I'd ever heard. I heard things that I'd never even heard in the States there. And I just kind of dove into his record collection for a couple of years and really just woodshedded, you know. Actually, more than woodshedding, I really just listened. I did some playing for sure. But I think my blues education, when it comes to that whole genre of finger pickers from the Delta and the other players from the Carolinas that were very influential to me, all of that stuff really just became daily nutrition. I just listened and listened and listened. And finally, when I started writing my own tunes, I realized that I didn't want to just be able to play what Blind Boy Fuller was playing. I wanted to be able to create my own songs that were rooted in some of the turnarounds and the harmonies and the rhythms that I was listening to for those years. I wanted to have it come back in a natural kind of reflection rather than sitting down and copying. I was very impressed with all the people who were avid admirers of the wonderful finger pickers, you know, who could play Tommy Johnson verbatim. I thought that was great. I was grateful to, you know, all the tablature kings, and I was just really happy that somebody was actually saving me a lot of hard work, because rather than just learn piece by piece, I heard certain things in the players that I wanted to integrate into my own player, and I would have my own playing, and I would have a kind of shortcut. It was like those books you used to get, the black and yellow books you could buy that were kind of crib books for reading a classic. You didn't have to read the whole classic, you could read one of those books. And that way was an easy way for me to go deeper, because I didn't have to pull out my hair and, you know, ruin vinyl trying to learn out what these guys were doing. You know, it was there in front of me. But as I said, what was important for me was finding my own voice as both a singer and a player, but particularly as a writer. Yeah.